Okay, we're recording. Hello, everyone. So, firstly, I'm Noelle. There's a few videos on my channel, and I haven't been able to upload lately, so I want to go ahead and start with that. School kicked my butt really bad, and then after that, I had a family emergency. So, currently in Florida, that's why it's looking like no books in the background or anything. So, um, unexpected things happened, and so there's not been a video out since I've talked to Tom last. So, yeah, that's it. Just is what it is. But today we're gonna do the book snob tag. But first, if you guys would introduce yourselves, Tom, you can start.
Sure. So I'm Tom. I have a booktube channel here where I ramble on about books pretty incoherently and do my best.
Real.
Yeah, you know.
Awesome. I'll go next. I'm Jake. My channel is Nerd Level Rising. I do the same as Tom. I just wear less orange. And generally there's darker colors in the background. That's about the only difference.
I'm Chance. I am an author and a booktuber. I chat books, I chat writing, and I have a lightsaber for a microphone. But when I do live streams, I don't because I haven't figured that out technologically quite yet.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody. I am very, very glad that you guys are here. So, firstly, what we're going to do is we're going to be grading each other. So, I've already just written down randomly who's going to grade each other. So,
Okay.
first, number your papers from 1 to 10, but also put B1 and B2 for our bonus questions.
Okay, so 1 to 10, and then B1, B2 under 1 to 10.
Yes.
Got it. Wait,
And
I'm
at
gonna count.
the top, if you want to put if you want to put who you're grading, Tom, you're grading Chance. Chance, you're
Let's
grading
go.
me. Jake, you're grading Tom, and I am grading Jake.
No, I wrote your name before you even said it. I knew it. Just had an instinct.
You can't count, but you're clairvoyant, so that works out.
yeah. It's
Well, the
like a
question is,
weird.
did you spell it right?
Nellele.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Wait, how else
Perfect.
do you spell it?
Yep. And a lot of people spell it Noel. And then
Oh.
all my life, for some reason, people are like, "Oh, Noel. Oh, okay. Hi, Nicole. How are you doing?" I'm like, "You never heard
Nice.
the name Noel before? Like, what's up with that?"
Yeah, I get
Anyway.
Chase a lot. Yeah.
Chase, yeah, that's fair. Just forget the N. It's just, you know, it's not
Yeah. Something
And-
completely different. Yeah.
add an S. Okay, so the first question, I'm gonna do B1, B2 first.
Okay.
Because they're fun and I made them up myself. At least I think they're fun. But so the first one is a very controversial take. And I'm assuming everyone here has read and seen Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's
Oh,
a good
yeah.
assumption. Okay. Tom Bombadil. Yay or nay? And then I guess depending on the end of who we think is snob and not snob, we'll see if we think you're a snob if you don't like them, and if we think you're a snob if you do. So I'll just go ahead and go first and say that I love Tom Bombadil. I thought he was just such an enigma. You're sitting up like
I'm ready to go.
I love Tom Bombadil. I think he's such an enigma, and I don't know. When I was first reading Lord of the Rings, I didn't really look into it too much, like Tom Bombadil as a character, and think, oh, why did he not like help them, with the ring? Like he's just sitting in the forest chilling. Like why is he doing nothing? I wasn't even thinking that. I was like, Tom Bombadil is so cool. Like he's just frolicking through the woods, and he's just so random and like very powerful. So I don't know. I thought it was cool. I didn't look too into it. So that's kind of my short answer on. I love Tom Bombadil. I will, but I don't wish that he was in the movies, only because I think that it the vibes the director wanted, I don't think Tom Bombadil would have fit in with it. But
All right.
I love him. So
All right. I mean, if I could just jump in, I tend to
of
echo.
course.
I tend to echo all of your feelings, even having the feelings of like, hey, why isn't this guy helping with the ring? I was able to gaze past that and be like, I mean, this guy he's just ripping in the middle of his forest, doing minding his own business. He rocks. I mean, I had that same thought of like that you hear people often have, but it didn't really it didn't register as something like a win or lose situation for me. Like it didn't bother me that he didn't. I was like, okay, I'm sure there's a reason. I mean, it's Tolkien. Like he could. I'm sure he has a good reason as to why. Yeah.
Should I torture it, or do you want to go, Tom?
I think I have a feeling we might feel the same. I hate Tom Bombadil. It's a waste of my reading time when I read
But
The
your
Lord
name
of the
is
Rings.
Tom.
Doesn't matter. There's better names out there. But yeah, I was not a fan. I mean, I think I've been pretty vocal in general that like I'm not like I like Lord of the Rings, but it's not like for so many people, it's like their guiding star of fantasy and like nothing can touch it. And for me, it's like, no, I mean, it's good. And most people who say that only ever watch the movies and never read the books. So they don't actually, even know what they're talking about a lot of times. Yeah. That's my hot take, that a lot of people who just like can't get enough of the Lord of the Rings actually haven't read the books.
Oh,
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, just call everyone out real quick.
There you go. I'm more like Tom than you guys. I think I remember. To be fair, I read these very early on in my reading journey, so I might feel differently if I reread it now. But I just remember being like, "What is this, dude? Can we like? I want the story." So I wasn't a fan.
It was the first fantasy book I've ever read, so I don't think that's a good excuse.
That's
So
fair.
I started out my reading journey when I was 21, 22. And because I liked reading when I was young, and then kind of stopped, and then came back. But I started out with Crime and Punishment, and then went to Lord of the Rings. Crime and Punishment, because it's one of my husband's favorite books. That's why I picked it up. And I was like, oh, let me like find something to relate with him on. Maybe if he likes it so much, then I'll like it. I didn't, but loved Lord of the Rings. So I did love Tom Bombadil, but so there's two sides of the coin, even in the same situation of
yeah.
I like
Tom. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead. You're starting your echoing now.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, it was Tom's point about having seen the movies and then not reading the books. I read them late. I read the books late, well after I had seen the movies. And then I read the books, and I guess my expectation was just like, I was just strapped in. I'm like, I know we're going to get back to it eventually. I was like, this is just a little detour. Yeah. I had that feeling of like, what is this? And then the more he was in like that portion of the book, I was just like, I mean, he's just vibing in the woods. Like, I like this guy. I get it just kind of hit me that way. It's like a weird, I don't know, just a weird, vibing hippie in the woods.
Yeah, I think I was the same, because I grew up on Lord of the Rings, but like whenever they came out, I don't know. But I didn't. Okay, I grew up on the Lord of the Rings movies. Let me clarify. I did not grow up on the books. The books I read when I was 20.
My other fantasy hot take. Songs in fantasy books, highly overrated. I'm actually not a fan.
Skip every single song that's ever been in a book.
Okay, I read them because I'm so scared I'm going to miss something. But I wouldn't say that...
Skim. I don't completely skip
that I dislike them, or that I am in love with them, but I do like them. I think that they add something, and I think it's really great when they do, if those books do end up getting adapted. Like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack is amazing. I listen to it to study all the time, and it brings in this whole vibe where you feel it come to life. But I also don't think that like an author should put in a song for that reason, unless they're already like, okay, I got a composer ready, like we're gonna do this. But that's but I don't dislike the songs. They can.
Is that an extra snobby ad for Jake? I don't know who's grading Jake. But...
I think we.
Does that make me snobby, or does that make me like a peasant?
I think so, because does it put you on the opposite side of the scale?
Yeah.
So
I'm staying in the middle here.
B2 is, do you have any reservations or any thoughts coming into reading from the point of view of the opposite sex? I'm not saying that the author has to be the opposite sex, but the point of view. Are you expecting different things? Do you gravitate one way or the other. I'm not going to start off with this one.
I actually have a really good example
Okay.
for this. I actually just read a book
Perfect.
this year. Let me get the title right. It's I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. And in general, I never really care. Like I can follow whoever the POV character is at the time. That normally doesn't matter to me. But I will say that is a book that I think is a great example of getting a story that is very unique because it's written by a woman and from a woman's point of view. And I just think it makes it a really unique, different reading experience. It's not normally something I think about because it's more of it's with the characters, it's almost like what they're doing matters more than like who they are to a certain extent. But that is one book that I have read recently that like I don't know if it had been done from a male perspective, it would have hit me the same way as it did from like a female's perspective. So that's just like one example I have. But that is definitely a book that's like just highlights that difference, I think, better than most.
I like it.
That's good.
I can go, I guess. I'm kind of similar. Like to me, one of my favorite, maybe my favorite thing about reading, it's certainly up there in the list of favorite things, is just experiencing a different life or like experience different emotions, different whatever for just people other than myself. I think I've mentioned this on a stream before, but there was what interview was that? It might have been his essay. Sanderson mentioned this once. That's part of why he likes writing is his emotional range is not as wide as some other people, and so he gets to experience all these things through the characters that he creates. And I identified with that a lot, and I was like, man, like that's part of what I get from reading. So for me, if it's somebody who's not, a straight white male or whatever, I'm like, this is awesome. I get to like see different stuff. So I'm a big fan personally.
Yeah, I think I haven't read does not. What was that, Tom? What book
I
was
Who
it?
Have Never Known Men.
I Who Have Never Known Men. Right.
Yeah.
I've heard of that. Well, not just from you, but there's people that in New York that read it that really enjoy it. Some people that don't. I don't. I tend to echo Jake's thoughts here. I typically go into a story wanting to get an empathetic experience reading and to experience other people's perspectives. It never. What is the exact prompt again? I'm trying to see if I can snob my way through this.
Okay, so well, it's kind of I don't know, it's kind of a weird prompt, but reading from the opposite sex point of view. Do you have any reservations? And does it any reservations on if a man is writing a woman or if a woman is writing a man? Like if
No.
it makes you feel some type of way, or I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah, typically no. I think I can't think. I think I've just been very fortunate with like what I've read. Like again, Robin Hobb doing Fitz, a young Fitz. It's like a boy. It's a boy's experience, and she masterfully wrote Fitz Chivalry. I don't know. I think you can get it from anywhere. I can't speak to being a woman written by a man and that experience as someone who has written women, and fortunately, I've gotten some pretty good feedback in terms of how I write them, which is something that made me very nervous going into it. But I approached it from human first, and I think human experience. There are differences, and then there are things that transcend those differences. And I think when reading, I typically am able to spot those things that we all as humans have these experiences, and I think the authors typically do a good job of showcasing them.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think that as humans, we have a universal experience, but then we also have things that are specific to gender, class, race, whatever. For me, I would say the same. And I would say there are two authors that come to mind that I think about when I think about a person writing the different gender. And one would be Robin Hobb, and that I have heard so much about, oh, yes, this is a young man's experience. And like, I wouldn't know what that's like, but I have read Assassin's Apprentice, and then the first half of the next one that I can't remember right now. But and then I got depressed and I had a pause and I was like, okay, I'm sad. Let me like walk away from this for a second. But I don't mind the perspective of a man from a man or from a woman or vice versa. The reason I asked the question was because I do have a friend who she doesn't like reading from a man's perspective at all. whether it is from a woman or from a man. And I was like, oh, I wonder if like this is something that other people may feel. And then the other thing is, I will never doubt a man's ability to write a woman because of George R.R. Martin writing Arya and Sansa, because it's basically, when I was reading Arya and Sansa in A Game of Thrones, I felt like I was reading mine and my sister's relationship in the medieval freaking Westeros, you know, like
Yeah.
I would have been Arya and my sister would have been Sansa. So yeah, the things that Arya did and said, not the more dramatic and violent, I guess, things, but I'm like, wow, this feels like me. I'm like, how can I relate so much to this young girl? It feels like this young girl was based off me and the older girl was based off my sister, which is crazy. It's crazy, but
That's cool.
No, that's a great example. It is funny. I do have a friend who she definitely prefers like not just female authors, but normally female perspectives as well. Not that she completely avoids them, but I think it might have been last year. She didn't read a single book that I think was written by a guy just because that's how it lined up for her. I don't think she maybe did it on purpose. I can't remember. But so I know some people who are kind of like that.
Can I throw one more thing in there? I think that
absolutely.
Sometimes I'm like, the more, how do I articulate this? I feel like in the last year or so, I'm on this journey of like trying to learn how to actually like really pull apart a text and like analyze a book.
True.
And so that's something that I'm like, if I'm reading something that's not a male or that's not like a demographic that I identify with personally, I hesitate to say much about how well it was portrayed because I don't know. You know what I mean? So like that sort of thing, I'm kind of like, I wouldn't say it's a reservation, but it's just I try to keep that in mind of like, man, I don't know if like everyone talks about how well John Gwynne wrote Orca in the Bloodsworn books. And I'm like, I'm not a mom. I don't know. Right. But it seems like it was cool. So I do think about that. It doesn't affect my enjoyment or my choices with books or anything really, but I do think about that sometimes.
Yeah,
Orca's a great example, actually. That's a good, because I think she's an awesome character, but like
series yet.
I've never thought about it from how you just said it. That's good.
Yeah. So what would the snobby take be here? Is it is it your friend's take, Noelle? Is that?
I think that's the snobby take.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think not necessarily preference, but trying to avoid it would be snobbery.
Yeah, I think it's okay to have preference. I think.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own opinion. Like, that's what this panel is. Like, so the next question would be actually question 1 would be, what is your definition of book snobbery?
Ooh.
So now we're kind of getting into the question you're asking.
The meat. All right.
Start.
Potatoes.
I can try. My definition of book snobbery would be it's associated with gatekeeping, you know?
Oh, for sure.
I actually think, I mean, not everything is for everyone, but just because it isn't for you doesn't mean that it's not good. And then also, it doesn't mean somebody else won't like it. You know what I mean? And so coming at it from a place of, okay, or I guess these are kind of two separate points that my brain's scattering into because I think it's late for me. It's like past my bedtime, 7 o'clock. Yeah, I think if, see, this is where my brain went. If you are trying to keep somebody away from something by saying it's hard or you're not going to get anything out of it, that's when it's like, I don't know, that's when it gets kind of snobby for me.
Yeah. I feel like that makes sense.
I agree. Yeah, especially when it gets into like, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like when it gets into like condescending, like you're not smart enough to get this. That's like, oh, okay, dude, it's a book, right? Like, you know,
right.
So,
True.
I don't know.
My brain went to when people try to say things aren't like worth it. And as people who read a lot of fantasy, I'm sure you have had somebody be like, why are you wasting your time with that? Not even that you're not going to like get anything out of it, but like there are people who just don't see like any intrinsic value in reading something that is not going to be like to them like you like have real world implications, even though that's not true with fantasy. But that, and then
Right.
the other thing that this question made me think of is when people really get on about whether or not something like listening to an audiobook counts. And like even I've had people who say like ebooks technically don't count, which doesn't make
It's
any
so
sense to
weird.
me whatsoever. But they're like, you have to read a physical book, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. So
Yeah. I think that the term of the book snobbery goes into a lot of sections, which I think you guys have articulated pretty well as the form. If people are like, oh, gatekeeping because of the form, if people are gatekeeping because of the genre, if people are also doing it because of the prose. Now, I'm not saying a book to be not well written, and people are like, dogging on it because it's got bad grammar. Well, I'm sorry, but why did you not have an editor look at it or something? Like check that first. But yeah, I would say that it comes to, I would say, like kind of discriminating against genres or types of writing. And then yeah, like Tom said, people who straight up are like, why would you read fiction? Why are you not reading nonfiction? And then people who are on the opposite side of the coin who are reading fiction and like, oh, why would you read nonfiction? That's so boring. You could just watch a YouTube video on it. Like, something like that, which is, I mean, to each their own. But yeah, so I think it encompasses a lot of different areas. And I think that's kind of why the tag is made the way it is to kind of go over each one.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That brought up another point in my mind of people saying that like genre fiction isn't literary fiction, and I know that there's some technical things here, and maybe this is the book snobbery that I'm about to provoke from myself. Is I think like I would challenge somebody who doesn't believe that genre fiction can be literary fiction to read something like Steven Erikson or Christopher Rocchio or Robin Hobb or Janie Wirtz, and come away from those experiences saying that they weren't literary in any way. Like, I mean, literally it is. It's first of all, it's literature. It's fiction.
Exactly.
I mean, literally, but also you're talking about just beautifully written stories used with, written with powerful style and powerful word choice that just gets to the root of what is trying to be communicated. And I don't know. I think that stuff is beautiful.
Yeah.
Me too.
Robin Hobb. Oh yeah.
This is your show, dude. You go. I'll go.
Oh my gosh! Like every time it's me and Jake want to talk at the same time. Like, but I was gonna say Robin Hobb. She would have me literally looking up words in the dictionary probably every couple pages in Assassin's Apprentice and it made me feel not smart, but at the same time I was like, oh well, these are also just very specific words that I wouldn't know. But yeah, go ahead, Jake.
I was gonna say I'm gonna come off this stream sounding like the Sanderson fanboy, but like he said a million times, like fantasy is amazing because it can do everything that every other genre can do, plus you can have dragons, right? And I'm like, if that doesn't say it,
true.
Yeah, I mean,
that is really well put. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a way with words, doesn't he? But it's so true. Right? Like it can do all these same profound, literally life-changing things. But it also just has cool stuff, so like it's fun also. So I don't know, it's
true.
Yeah.
So question number 2 is there a genre that or a type of book that you would not consider reading?
Not consider reading?
Yeah,
actually
hockey romance.
Yeah.
Hockey. No, this is a thing. This is a genre.
Hockey specifically only?
It's
this is
a thing.
Sport?
Oh, I know.
Thing. Yes, the sport.
Oh,
this is a thing, Jake. This is a thing.
Okay.
There's an entire. Well, yeah, I know. Sure, it could be. There's an entire genre dedicated to hockey romance, and I just know I have no. I mean, I love hockey, and I love romance separately. You put them together in a book, I'm sure that it's well written. It could be whatever. It could be great. It's just not something that I think I'm going to spend time reading personally. I have read romantasy. I've read a couple Fourth Wing books. Are they my taste particularly? No, but I thought the first book was fine. It's just relating to hockey and romance, just attaching to the romance, now adding fantasy, just so we're not digressing too far. I do think that hockey romance might be on now. If they start coming out with all the sports and romance, can I say that I won't ever read? Oh, they do. I said this is.
Oh yeah,
this
for
is,
sure.
I'm lost. I should have figured.
They got
it out.
cowboys too, you know.
I feel like
course.
that's just. I feel like
that's pretty
romance
normal.
with cowboy. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Western
they make it
romance.
specifically. There is a series that is about different kind of yeehaw fantasy, or not fantasy, sorry, romances.
If I'm a snob for not reading sport specific romances, then so be it. But I want to also say that I am sure that there are circumstances in which I would consider picking it up. How about that? I'm not closed minded to it. Also, I'm not actively chasing it. Not actively chasing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So wait, is the question genres I wouldn't consider reading or count as reading?
Yes. Would not consider reading. That's a technically
okay.
there are different questions that kind of get into that.
Sure.
But
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Of course.
This is, I remember John struggled with this too, and I feel like an old man now also. Is this what you don't consider to be like a valid book, or something that you personally just don't want to read? Okay.
Something you don't want to read. You say, you go to the bookstore, you go into the section, you said, man, I am never reading a book from this section.
Okay.
Something like that.
Man. I mean, never say never, but
Yeah.
my biggest thing is, so I always say I don't want to read a lot of history stuff because I would rather watch a documentary. And so
that's fair.
I mean, but I have read history, so it's like, I don't know, talking out of both sides of my mouth there. But like I read Fourth Wing, so like I've done the romantasy. I'll read some nonfiction. I don't know. I guess no. I guess I'd kind of. I could get bamboozled into anything. I think so.
All right, I'll be the toxic one. I have one.
Oh no,
okay.
I have one too.
Oh,
Tom might hate me. I'm not a classics guy.
Oh.
I just don't think I can do it. I had some bad experiences being forced to read some of the like Tom Sawyer stuff, Old Yeller, like some like the American classics, and it's just not. I hated every experience, and maybe it's just because I was forced to read it in high school or whatever. But I'm just like, I just have no desire to do for whatever reason. Like, if a book has like country American vibes, it's a hard no for me. I don't know why. The people
Country
are amazing.
American.
I have nothing against
like Cormac
Lonesome
McCarthy
Dove?
books.
Maybe. I mean, I tried The Road and bounced off it really hard, but I think it was a weird timing thing. I will come back. I know it's amazing. Okay, nobody get mad at me. But yeah, I think it's like I have this weird aversion to the classics. I don't know. I can recognize that they're well read. I hated Gatsby. I hated Wuthering Heights.
I did too.
I was just like, I can't do it.
I think Great Gatsby is one of the most overrated books of all time, but you know, that's just look. We're already commonality. You thought I wasn't going to be on that train with you. But there we go.
Now
the Tom Sawyer
The Great
slander.
Gatsby.
I will not.
I know.
I don't plan on reading The Great Gatsby. I will say a classic that is really good is The Call of the Wild by Jack London. Definitely recommend it. It's a very short classic book, but I think that children should read that book. I say children, I mean probably like high school level. I don't think children should be reading that, but like high school level. But anyway,
you're encouraging animal abuse? What's happening? What just
that is what she said.
Had more animal abuse.
Oh my god! No, I'm saying that there's too much, and that if teenagers read it, they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, this dog, this point of view from this dog his life is so horrible. Why would I ever want to be a human to make a dog feel like that?"
Sure.
or
It's
making
so good.
any person or animal or anything.
Ooh.
It's
So
so
let
good.
me circle back to the question, and I would say that I have read romance. I have read contemporary romance, and I listened to part of Fourth Wing. I probably won't continue just because it hasn't necessarily grasped my attention, but I don't dislike it. I don't think it's something that I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I would never read romantasy. I'm not saying that. However, romance subgenre erotica, I cannot. And it goes the same for mangas that show too much. I can't do that, and I would not say that makes me a snob, because there's very personal reasons why I'm like, okay. And I'm also religious. I'm also a Christian, so I'm like, this is not for me, you know? So that's
Sure.
my
Yeah.
that's my take. That's probably the only genre that I'm like, oh, I would not read that. If someone, now I have friends that will tell me about it, or I watch YouTubers that read it, and I'm like, wow, that is insane. Like the dark romances and stuff like that. That's another one that I actually wouldn't read either. Is dark. Well, no, I wouldn't, because a lot of the times they do get to be on the verge of erotica, but very toxic as well. So that kind of segues into the next question, which is
Okay.
question number 3
Okay.
does erotica count as literature?
Literally, I mean, I feel like I remember Austin and Richard having this conversation. Literally,
Yeah.
yeah. I would be a snob to say no.
So what I'm going to say is that I am a very literal person as well. So I pulled up the definition of literature, and I also pulled up the definition of a book. So like book is literally words written on a paper, glued together, bound in covers, whatever.
Sweet.
Literature, and I would argue that literature had a different meaning before, in the same way that reading had a different definition before. Because before, say, you couldn't read like things on a screen, or you couldn't listen to a book and someone say, hey, I read this book. So I would say that reading has taken on a new definition. I would also say that literature for a longer time has taken on a different definition. And in the dictionary, it says written works, especially those considered of superior or lasting artistic merit. And so when we get into that conversation of the term literature has kind of changed. It does not mean words on a paper anymore. It means, like it said, a book that can kind of stand the test of time, that has that merit, and things like that. I would say it's very difficult to say, is erotica words on a page? Yeah, it is. Is it
Literature.
is it literature? Is it our modern definition of literature? No.
I'm gonna say it is. I mean,
Oh
50
my
Shades of
God.
Grey has been standing strong for how long at this point? I don't think it's
That's
that
fair,
crazy.
but does it have the merit? It has that
I
specific
think
level
so.
of
Yeah, I mean,
whatever.
I think you could. I
Okay.
think somebody could. I mean, I haven't read these books, so like I don't know, but it
Right.
definitely has done something that has given it staying power, not only just among people who read, but among, and some of this you could say is maybe the movies and everything, but like everybody, or so many people know what that is, and to just discount it because of the material that it's kind of covering, I don't think is fair. And so, you could say maybe erotica as a whole is maybe not living up to that standard of it being revolutionary or having staying power. I think you could argue that erotica is one of the few things that has had staying power since the dawn of time, because I mean, but yeah, that's kind of where I'd put it. Yeah.
My mostly real answer that's somewhat jokey is, pun intended, hard yes, it is a form of literature. And you can learn some real life lessons from this. So I think it does have that staying power. My actual real answer, jokes aside, is I think everything is a spectrum, right? So like, just because it's not, Malazan or Robin Hobb or Janney or, so on and so forth, is, can you grade it at a different place on that spectrum? Maybe, but I have a hard time personally saying it's not on there at all. My 2 cents.
Yeah, I kind of fall on that one. I think mostly it isn't literature. I think there is a very small percentage of it that is, if we're talking about lasting. Should we look at the definition of artistic merit?
That's what I'm saying, dude.
I did. I did
keep
before
breaking it
we.
down.
I'm not gonna
There's
lie. I did look
education
it
to
up
be
before we
gleaned.
started this.
And so I don't know. I agree that I don't know. 50 Shades will kind of go down in history, I think, as something that sticks around, and its merit, I guess, is associated with its. It was sort of like what is it a revolutionary novel in that sense? Like that
I think it was for that genre. Like I think,
right?
Like, I mean, I don't know. It's not a genre I pay a lot of attention to, so I'm sure there was always kind of like a hardcore fan base for that kind of stuff. Like, if you think back, like there are definitely those like really famous, like what's the guy's name with the long hair on a horse that has been around
Fabio.
forever?
Fabio.
Yeah, like Fabio has been like a thing for a really long time.
Good point.
But then 50 Shades was kind of like maybe the next step in that of like bringing forth and it might not even be the best of the things that it brings forth, but it definitely like opened some floodgates for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Like, do we get a lot of the romanticy we have right now without something like 50 Shades or like even Twilight? Like, I know people love to dunk on Twilight, but like,
well, luckily Twilight is YA and it doesn't have any like intimate, super graphic scenes.
It's just supernatural.
Yeah, there's
romance,
not there's not anything like too crazy, I guess, in Twilight, but like it's another one of those things where it's like these things build and build and build, and then you kind of have like these new avenues of stuff. So that's kind of why my mind went to the 50 Shades of Grey kind of thing.
Yeah.
And isn't 50 Shades, didn't that start as like a Twilight fanfic?
It was
yeah,
a Twilight
that's why
fanfic.
those connected.
Oh,
yeah.
I forgot that. You guys know more about this than me. But I was going to say,
you see it?
Oh my gosh, I haven't read them. I don't say I would that I wouldn't. I'm sure that the first book has got to be better than the first movie. And if it's not, I will not read it because that first movie is horrible. No, don't do it.
No, I'm not doing it.
I saw you sitting outside.
Nor me.
Anyway, no, I would probably read it for a laugh, but I don't know. Anyway, maybe that makes me a snob too. Oh no. Okay. Dang it, I had a point before I got all sidetracked. Okay. Now, number 4 is a question that I hear discussed, and we'll see how it goes. I'll probably make my point last. But classic or popular bestsellers? What is better to read, quote unquote? What is better?
What do we mean by better?
Yeah.
Well, your own personal opinion of like, let's say, is it better in general for people to read classic or popular bestsellers? Now, I don't even want to make my point last. I want to go ahead and even start because, like, in my opinion, classics are classics because they were at some point popular bestsellers, or because they were like Shakespeare shoved down everyone's throat for so long. So he is classic, but because he was popular. Like, that's just Dostoevsky, whatever, Crime Punishment author. You know, the guy. Had to be popular enough in Russia to get translated to become a classic also in America, because it's considered a Russian classic, but we also consider it a classic in America because of its popularity. But then we could also look at the other side and say, oh, books, I would say a better word than popular is books that are trending now. And even then they can dip into the same bucket, So lots to chew on.
I think if you had to pick between the two, I would say classics, because they have kind of stood the test of time. What is popular right now could be a flash in the pan and not hold up necessarily. But and it also, I will say, depends on how wide of a net are we casting on classics, because to me, classics don't just include things from the United States or just Europe. I like, which is obviously English speaking countries is where we have that big bubble where that's where we get a lot of things from. But if you start branching outside of that and going into like Asia and all these other places, and you can also include classics from there, not only are you getting things that have stood the test of time in one place, you're getting things that have stood the test of time throughout the entire world. And I think there's a lot of value in being able to get perspectives from all those different places. And also, classics just give you the opportunity to read through a wide history, which books of the time a lot can be a like time capsule of what was going on in the world, right? So I think there's so much value in learning about some of those things. So if I had to pick between, whatever the most popular fantasy book or the 10 best-selling books in every category that is happening right now, I would say I have more trust in books that have stood the test of time versus something that happens to like get the TikTok algorithm right now.
True.
This one's so tough for me.
It is. It's so tough because also imagine me telling somebody not to read Stormlight because it's popular right now, and I'm like,
well, this is also part of the question, right? Like, what's included in classics? Is it just your stereotypical classics, or is it like what we as fantasy fans might say, like a Game of Thrones, for example? Does that count?
Right. That's what I was thinking too, and I think that like we can just kind of discuss it all depending on how you view it, because in my opinion, like Lord of the Rings is considered a classic, but what the general population, I guess you could say, if they were given a survey, is Lord of the Rings a classic, they'd be like, that's a movie. And then we'd be like, so it's a classic in the fantasy genre.
I have my own definitions, and a lot of times a book needs to be at least 50 years old. Like it's a very arbitrary like cutoff, but like they do it with cars, right? I think 25 years or something. It might be a little bit longer to be considered a classic car. And I took that to books and was like, well, let's make it a little bit longer. And for some reason, I picked 50 years because that felt like it had something could have been around long enough.
I think there certainly is a valid argument to be made, and I might make the argument. Actually, I think I will, just because maybe it's my personal experience.
Stand your ground.
Especially there we go. 10 toes down. Here we go. If somebody
die on that hill.
11.
Yeah. If someone's coming in and they're a relatively new reader, I would much rather give them the new trendy thing that they might really enjoy and go read more stuff than risk giving them Gatsby and they're just like, ugh, and they, don't do anything else. Not ideal, right? So if we're thinking from like a new reader perspective, that makes a little bit more sense to me. I guess it kind of depends on which book you give them, right? Because they might bounce off the new trendy thing if they just don't like that thing, or they might love the classic if that suits their interests. I don't know. It's hard.
All right, I'm gonna apply. I'm gonna take Tom's idea, the concept of years. I'm gonna make it 20 years instead of 50. Make it shorter than cars. I'm gonna make it 20.
Okay.
If you look at modern bestsellers in fantasy, all right, forget like niche subgenres inside of fantasy, just fantasy. That would count Court of Thorns and Roses, Fourth Wing, Stormlight as fantasy, best-selling fantasy currently, right now. Would I say it's better to read those books in terms of like quality versus reading something like, for my experience, Tad Williams' Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn from the 90s, or like George R. R. Martin? Would I rather somebody read those 20-plus-year-old classic fantasy books than, Stormlight might be the exception here. And again, it all comes down to taste. What's better? I think those books from 20-plus years ago are better. And I've only read Way of Kings in that, but I think I would still say that if I just compared book one of Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, Dragonbone Chair, and Way of Kings, I like Dragonbone Chair more. And part of that is because of Tad Williams' prose and his style and his writing. And this is where I'm becoming a snob now. If you look at our modern bestsellers, the writing styles are all, I've only grazed through Court of Thorns and Roses, and then Fourth Wing I listened to, and then Way of Kings I read. But the style of those books, all three of them, all bestsellers, versus Tad Williams style and his prose and his kind of, it's not archaic, but it's beautiful. I would say that it's better to read that because I had a better experience with that than I did with a Fourth Wing or a Way of Kings. So I don't know. It's a toss up because if it feels weird to say better, and like Tom, or I don't know who just said it about someone just coming into the genre, what I would say read.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's tough. It depends on the person.
Yeah, it gets hyper specific really quick. For
yeah, because I started.
Yeah,
My intro to the genre was Tad Williams, and that made me fall in love with fantasy. Whereas I know some people's intro to the genre is Mistborn, and that makes them fall in love with fantasy. So I can't really. Yeah, I don't know. They just call me a snob on this one. It's better to read it. It's better to read the 20-year-olds.
Yeah, it's hard to call. Like for me, I think it's really hard to call something a classic if I'm older than it, because we're all older than 20 years old. So it'd be very hard to be like, oh yes, this book came out like when I was alive and it's a classic. Like that's I mean, we could call it a modern day classic probably. When we get under 50 years, I think we could call it a modern day classic. And then I'm getting hyper specific, but I told y'all I'm a very literal person, so I do like take things very literally and by definition sometimes to my demise. But my hand is cramping. I don't have my microphone stand because I'm at my grandma's house, so I'm like
just
having to hold my microphone. I'm like
old school, man. It's a classic way to do a video.
I am classic. Really good. Okay, so I would say I agree with Jake in his point that honestly it depends on the person, because there could be like better to read in general. I would say if we look back in time, the people who were not writing and expecting to become something. Or like, I think that there was a lot more passion before that now, or that there's a lot more drive. And I'm not saying that that's with every book or every new author, but I would say that a lot of books that get picked up is because they're hitting story beats. Like, and I'm going to go not necessarily into the fantasy genre, but I see it a lot in contemporary romance and in fiction, because I do follow a lot of YouTubers who read books that I don't read, and I keep up with them. And it sounds like the same thing over and over again, with worsening grammar, worsening predictability and things like that. So I would say those books that are circulating and becoming popular, I wouldn't say that those are better to read. And it also depends on the genre, because if we want to go popular, Lord of the Rings is both popular and considered a classic. It was written in the 1930s and 1940s, didn't get published until later, but that was when it was written. Like The Hobbit was written in 1930s. They're considered classics. So that's kind of where I would go on that. Is that it's difficult to answer.
It's so hard, and the definitions matter so much, right? Like if we define classic or current things in different ways, it's going to change the answer.
Modern classic versus classic, and
I
would say if we are looking to, because I have an opinion on if we look at every side, right? So if we are looking specifically to American classics versus popular bestsellers, I personally will probably gravitate towards the bestsellers, John Gwynne, George R. R. Martin,
for sure.
Eventually Chance Dillon. You know, we're gonna like I will gravitate towards those, and I think that is from my experience in I wouldn't even say in school, because my education was very poor. I never had a literature class, so but well, in my English class in college, yes, and those stuff was really good. But starting my reading journey out with Crime and Punishment, I feel like it makes me think, oh, they're gonna drag and they're gonna be boring, and maybe they won't even have anything to say.
See, that's the other thing too. Yeah, it's like, well, what are we reading for? Like, some people just want pure enjoyment, and like, go read John Gwynne. Like, not that there's not other layers to it, but like, he has specifically said he writes as entertainment, right?
Yeah.
So like, Go read Red
He writes
Rising. Go
for
do this fun
for
stuff.
I would argue he writes very passionately though, because like The Faithful and the Fallen wasn't even supposed to come out. Malice was written for his children.
Yeah.
So
I love his stuff. Just for the record, I
Yeah.
absolutely love his
Yeah.
stuff. I'm just saying it's a good example of like it doesn't have to be that deep. It can just be an awesome
right.
story.
Yeah,
you know?
he's not writing on social, economical, political,
Sure.
like that kind of stuff. He's writing
Yeah.
with influences, but not. Yeah.
Of course.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next question. Number 5. I feel like this is interesting, but have you ever bragged about reading a classic in order to sound smart? I bring up reading Crime and Punishment a lot, but I don't feel like I bring it up in like I'm smart for reading Crime and Punishment. It's like I didn't like it. I thought it was kind of boring. Like, so I don't know if that makes me snobby, but to say to bring up that I have read it but not enjoyed it. But maybe that's me discounting classics in a way and saying, why is it a classic if it's so boring?
Yeah, I don't know.
That does make me snob if I say it like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I can't say that I've read a ton of classics, so I've definitely not brought it up to brag about it because I mean, in school, all the literature that I read that was technically classics, I didn't even read. I improvised what I thought was going to happen in the stories on all of my reports. Not even. Didn't even read the cliff notes. I got the characters' names, I got where they were, and then I just was like got like one trait from each character, and then I like wrote a book report about it.
That's pretty awesome.
I mean, did kind of okay. Did okay enough. Like the teacher was like, I mean, he gave it a shot.
They're like,
yeah,
oh, he's
I don't know
so
if that was
creative.
Nice.
Yeah, I get. They're like, this isn't the story at all, but I mean, A for effort. You know, he wrote enough words. Maybe we'll give him credit for that. But no, I don't know. I haven't like. I think the only one that's like super memorable for me, and I don't know, is Lord of the Flies is a classic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That one is super memorable for me, and I definitely missed 1 or 2 chapters in that book, so I can't say that I finished it. And now I'm saying it to brag that I didn't finish it.
I think I've only watched the movie, which is yeah, and I think The Outsiders is a classic too.
Yeah,
so
that's another. That's another one.
I do want to read that. I want to read that badly because I remember when I was a kid, I loved that movie. It was like one of the favorites. But yeah, I would say there were certain classics that I'm like, but I wouldn't say I would brag about like reading The Outsiders or something. And I certainly haven't like lied about reading a classic and said, oh, I read, because I know some people have gotten into that on other panels. So yeah.
Or I gotta look this way. Gentlemen,
do we count Book of the New Sun as a classic?
Oh,
probably.
Oh, dang!
So
if that's the case, I think there is a piece of me, if I'm being very honest with myself, that does think it's cool to have read Book of the New Sun. Not that I've read the whole thing. I've read the first book twice in a month, which is kind of which is my weird flex, right? That I'm like,
dude, that is a flex.
I read it.
That is.
I
read like one book a month at this point.
I mean, it's like 250 pages long, right? But I was like, flexing. I read it and I was like, yeah, why do people say this is so hard? And then we did our discussion. And I was just like, what happened? So then I made sure to go reread it, and I feel like I got a lot more the second time. But anyway, I don't think that it's like, I don't think I'm better than other people for having read it or whatever. Like, it's not that. But I do think it's cool to have read it, if I'm being honest. So if we count that as being snobby, then okay.
Be bragging.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back and edit that clip so it's you saying, "I did read it." To brag.
When I was rereading it, I was sending Sam Samwise a bunch of voice notes of like, here's my new theory, and he would just kind of like either laugh at me or be like, oh, you're on the right track, but no, or it's fun.
Yeah.
I've never bragged about reading classics, but in the same vein as that Jake is talking about, there are a lot of classics that I read so that I can say I had read them. Like,
Oh, see, that's that. I feel like that is
you know,
if you're reading
like
it
I didn't.
specifically so you can tell other people that you've read it.
No, it's not. It's not so that I could tell other people. Like, it's not that I wanted to read it so I could go tell people. It was more of a like I wanted to be able to have read them, and so that if people like did ever bring them up that they've read it, I could also be a part of that conversation. Is more. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not so much that like I don't know. It's like, did I really, really want to read War and Peace just for myself, or did I want, or was this like a tome of a book that is talked about and held in like a really high regard by so many people? Did I want to experience it more to see what all these other people were experiencing, more than I actually wanted to read it myself? Yes, absolutely. It also didn't help that when I got back into reading, I literally was just Googling like 100 books everyone should read, best books everyone should read. Like that's how how I ended up reading a lot of classics. And I actually I was looking at my spreadsheet of the 5 stars I have, depending on what year or how you want to define a classic, it's like an even split between like modern stuff and classics. Funny enough.
That's so
Sounds
funny.
Does having a spreadsheet make you a book snob?
I hope
That
I
is
know,
a
I was thinking
bonus,
about that
bonus
too.
3.
Yeah, does
Bonus
ranking
3.
every single book against every single other book you've read for since 2019 make you a book snob? Because
Oh, that's
100.
amazing.
I feel like
Yeah.
it makes you want to remember your thoughts because I don't remember anything. So like I would have to. That's why I have a story graph so that I can like write my
That's
review.
good move.
Put my little.
Oh yeah.
Jake, you almost made me revise what I said because I did read Book of the New Sun, the whole thing. Bragging now, so I guess I'll say yes. No, but I didn't actually have book 2 when I read it. So I read it because of my love for Christopher Rocchio, and he just like incessantly talked about how much he loved Gene Wolfe. And I was getting into my writing journey. I was obsessed with Christopher Rocchio's writing. So I was like, okay, let's see where this guy got his inspiration. Just like I did with George R. R. Martin and Tad Williams, it was just trying to see where these people got their inspiration from. And I was like, okay, well, if they pulled something from these people, let me see if I can pull something myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I might have to revise that just based on this stream alone.
I really quick fun fact, just because this blew my mind the other day. I'm obsessed with Book the New Sun right now, right? I'm just like, I want to cosplay Severian. But I was Googling Gene Wolfe, right? Because I was like, what else has he written? I want to write everything down on my list. And he lived and passed away in Peoria, Illinois, which is 25 minutes from my hometown. And I actually lived there for several years.
Oh my
and
God.
I'm like, I wonder if I passed this dude just on the street.
He looks very memorable.
And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have known him at the time. I mean, this was, I don't know, a long time ago.
I mean, just his appearance.
Just yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's an interesting looking dude.
Yeah.
But I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Small world.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Good old Peoria.
Yeah.
I've been there a few times.
What?
Yeah, I really have. Yeah, I really have. Dude. They're in Champaign.
Yeah. Great place to visit, right?
Never been to any of the I states. Number 6 is, so the original question is, do audiobooks count? And comic books or graphic novels. We're gonna like scratch out audiobooks because I think that we're beating a dead horse with that. And if we want to talk about comic books or graphic novels as reading, and I would put in obviously manga, like would you say, oh, I read this book, One Piece Volume 1? Like, would you? Because I think that obviously like reading can get to be performative in what we're getting into, and if you want to make goals for yourself, I think that that's fine. And I think that this is included in the question, is that people count these books in order for other people to be like, oh, or on your own personal goals. It really depends on the person. For myself personally, I count manga separately, but if someone else doesn't, I don't care. But for myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like reading One Piece and stuff like that, but I'm not counting every One Piece volume as a separate book that I've read. So, but I also don't like sit there and rate them like I do books, because I don't want to do that. They'd probably just all be 5 stars, honestly.
Especially One Piece. I mean, come on.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I love One Piece. Tom won't talk about One Piece right now. I can't take it right now. I'm reading Ruin by John Gwen, and I was already tearing up this morning, so I can't take any slander.
Let's see. So I think it counts as reading.
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do not count the manga I read in my reading at all. And then for comic books, I only count comic books in my reading if I'm reading a complete story. So like I wouldn't count these. So like I don't get singles anymore. I have way too many comic books in my closet and they take up way too much space. So if I do buy comics at this point, I just buy like the big graphic novels that have basically the complete story I want to read, and I will count the complete story as something I've read, but I actually don't mix it in with my books. That they have their own little section where I keep track of them, and I don't rank them the same way. For as hard of a ranker I am is on books, comics, it's like, yeah, that's great, 5 stars, whatever. It's way less stringent for whatever reason. It makes no sense, but
I think it does. There's a lot less words, although like I would still count it as reading. Obviously, there are still words on the page. You're still reading a story. Essentially, you're scanning with your eyes and you're getting real literal into it. But I think you're kind of in that middle section of a movie and a book. And so I feel like it makes sense to be more critical on a book where there are only words to keep your attention. You have nothing else that you're looking at.
It's a fair point. You got more with that. I think I'm in a similar boat. Like I think we all probably feel the same. Goes without saying. Definitely counts as reading. It's just how do you quantify it if that's what you want to do. What I've done is I think about like I like to think of like how many chapters of manga that I've read, just because I'm weird and I want to write the number down. But then I also I consider like each arc of a story as like a book. So like I just finished the Summit War Saga. I was like, that's like a book in my head. It's like it took me a week to read it, so that's just how I kind of think about it. Because it makes sense in my brain. But like you said earlier, Noelle, I was like, if other people want to do different stuff, sweet, right? This is a hobby that we're all doing. So who cares? Why are we even counting it? It's kind of silly anyway. But I mean, I get why we do it. But it's to each their own. It's cool, but that's what kind of feels good in my brain.
Yeah. You guys all count your books? I had no idea.
We're booktubers, Chance. You have to.
Dude, I have a spreadsheet with every book I've read since 2019.
I will say that I enjoy watching people who have that sort of organization and them talking about it. I am terrible at that. I do not know. Maybe it's just the fact that my counting ability is just not good. But I don't really count in general. So, I mean, I would say that
I don't count in general.
I'll try. I will try. I know what like a top 10 is. I can rank books that I've read. But can I tell you the number of books that I've read? I honestly have no idea.
And it sounds like manga would be a good choice for you because it's pictures. It's easier.
Yeah, I do love it. I am loving Berserk. And I would count that as reading because I look at the pictures for a long time.
Yeah,
the picture's pretty. And
there are some really
gnarly.
I'll say,
but
very pretty.
Is Berserk pretty?
I would say not necessarily
pretty
scenes.
Yeah, some of them are the ones that are pretty are pretty.
Artwork done good.
Artwork good. Yeah, no, I love pictures. Good. That's why I put pictures in my. I just love pictures. I don't know. Art.
Yeah, that first picture right before in the book.
Yeah.
Like even on the Kindle, I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, no, I love artwork. I think that it adds to the reading experience, and I think that I would count manga and comics as reading. I think if I were somebody who counted books, I would do it in the like volume sense, or maybe the arc of a story is a book, or like you were talking about comics, Tom, about how like if the whole story that you were trying to pick up would be that's one book. Yeah, I think if I were capable of counting my reads, I would say that would be how I would do it.
Yeah. I almost wish I started counting my manga, not necessarily towards my reading, but just separately because I have OCD, so I'm very much a list person. I like taking notes of things and keeping track of things. Anyway, I just like keeping track of things, not necessarily for anyone else, but for myself. And like when I track my books, I like to track them on Storygraph because I put in the date I started it and the date I finished it. And then I can see, oh, okay, this month I was reading really slow. And this month I was able to take in more story. And I'm not saying that I'm looking for speed because I read like at this point less than a book a month because of how much stuff I have going on in life. But I think I like the data and the stats and things like that. I think it's interesting to look at other people's too and be like, oh, this person read 50 books here. This person read 100. They read this many in this month. And, you know, I don't know. I think that all that kind of stuff is interesting. It doesn't like matter, but it's cool.
Yeah,
I agree.
The next one is, have you ever looked down on someone for reading a fluff book? So a book that you would consider to not have much substance.
Nah.
Nah,
No.
I
Read
don't
what you
care.
want.
Read what you want.
There's a smart
Yeah.
man in here who says that. Read what you want when you want. And
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think that's
Right,
very-
exactly.
Yep.
That is so
Yeah.
true.
think
I
we're
would
all
say-
good
I can't say
there.
that at the end of every video and then turn around and not mean it. That'd be bad.
And be like, anyway, guys, so
just
you're
in.
reading this.
Yeah.
I
Tom
would
Orange,
say
more like
that
Tom, not Orange.
oh my gosh. I would say that I feel like I get a bit snobby on this one. And that's because I'm not saying, oh, you're not reading or oh, you're whatever, but someone's like, oh, I read this romance book. And I'm like, great. I wish you were reading fantasy so we could talk about it. Like, that's kind of how I feel. And I think that now that I'm like looking introspectively at myself, it's because I want more people to read fantasy and not look down on it and not have this opinion on it. And that's why when people are like, oh yeah, I only read romance. I feel like that's when I get not looking down, but disappointed, if that makes sense. Because I'm like, oh, I wish they read
So when
fantasy
people are
or
like
that they would
trapped in
be
a bubble.
open. Yeah, that way I could share what I love with them, you know. So not
Makes sense. I mean,
not
it's,
looking down, but being
it's-
like,
sounds
oh,
like it's
I
coming
wish
from a
I
good
could share
place.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Everyone just wants to have. We just want to talk about stuff we like, right?
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think that's totally
And
valid,
it's
right?
hard when like in my normal everyday life, I don't have friends to talk like fantasy books with, and the ones that I do read like one book every 6 months. And so it's like, oh, I want to read this with you, and they're like, oh yeah, I started chapter 1, and I'm like, but I'm done. Like, what the heck? Anyway, so
Yeah,
um,
I'm like that with
number
movies
8.
and TV shows, though. I'll say that.
You what?
I'm like that with movies and TV shows, though.
Me too.
For sure. But not with books. Like, I'm more snobby with this. If somebody
I'm
watches,
not snobby.
if somebody watches something that I'm just like, instead of watching that, you should be watching Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight films, and that's it.
Just on repeat.
And watch
Actually, you know what? I'm going to
Tombstone,
get on board
Heat,
with this.
Lord of the Rings.
No,
and then
you just
don't
watch Pacific Rim, the first one, because the second one doesn't exist, and you just watch that on repeat and watch giant robots fight giant monsters just over and over again. That's all
You
you
guys
need
are
in
such
life.
pros. This is great.
I'm definitely not snobby about movies. Like,
I'm not either.
No,
I
mean,
enjoy a good bad movie. Like, I can recognize when a movie is bad or not necessarily good. Like, for example, let's go with a recent one, Minecraft. I wouldn't consider it a good work of film or whatever, but I'd say it was fun. It was a good time. I had a good time watching
I
it.
do need to say, like, the cheesy B classic horror movies where they had like a $50 budget. Like, those are some like, I love those kinds of movies.
The Collection.
Yeah.
I watched that and it was just funny.
Yeah.
But that's like one of the only horror
The
movies I've
Leprechaun.
watched because I
don't know if you
hate
guys
horror
seen The
movies.
Leprechaun.
Oh God.
Eight-Legged
That's so funny.
Freaks. Like,
So I could
I don't
do
know
it.
any of these.
I try to go into, if I'm watching something, I'm like, all right, here we go. But if somebody, I guess this relates kind of to what Noel was saying. If somebody's watching something I don't want them to watch, and I would rather them watch something so I can share it with them, that's where I'm like, all right, What are we
Okay,
doing?
but see, now I feel like you put snob down because you said that I said I don't want
No,
them to
I
read.
didn't say that you were a snob.
I didn't say I don't want them to read. I said I don't want them to be trapped, and I want them to read
You said,
also
I
what I
thought,
read.
I'm going to edit it so it made it sound like you said you wish people wouldn't read it at all.
Oh, okay, that's perfect. I think that's. Yep.
By the way, I don't edit, so I don't know how to edit. So it's going to be not a good
I've
video.
noticed when you're like, oh, I'll edit that out. The Brian Lee
he
Durfee
pulls
style.
he pulls a
Brian
Brian
Lee
Lee Durfee, exactly.
Yeah.
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 Every once in a while. Yeah.
Have you been, number 8, a recipient to someone else's snobbery? I don't know why this is a question on like if this would make you a snob, but maybe it's the way you reacted if you did.
Hmm.
And it would make you a snob.
Have you been on the other end of snobbery?
Mhm.
Like
I don't know
somebody
if
goes,
I would.
this is snobbery, but I definitely have people in my life who are like, you read? What are you? Like, why?
I would say, yeah, I would say I have
What?
definitely been a recipient to snobbery. Someone close to me who really cares about the way the books are written and looks in very deeply into everything, and also hates that people use the word trope. Like, they hate that. And then also will put down a book very fast off of like, oh, I don't like it. Well, I'm gonna walk away from it. I'm like, but give it a chance. So
what are you, a
I've been a
literary agent?
recipient, but what?
That's like, what are you, a literary agent? You got getting
Yeah.
paid for this? No, I'm kidding. I'm messing with you. I'm saying that's what I would say to that friend. No, I can't, like someone being like, oh, you like, I mean, there are definitely people, I think this is more like a personality trait. They're like, oh, you haven't seen blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, you haven't read blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I don't know if, and if it, the way it comes off is more, it's more that than what's said. I feel like someone
Oh
can say,
yeah.
oh, you haven't read this is that. And it's like, oh, cool. I think you would really like it. You know, like something like
Yeah.
that versus like the other way.
I've gotten that for movies and shows my whole life. Like people would always quote different things, and especially SpongeBob. And like growing up, I'm like, I didn't watch that, and they're like, you didn't watch blah blah blah. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
That's
Been a
crazy. You
recipient
didn't
for
watch
that too.
SpongeBob. No.
Okay.
I didn't watch it either. You are seen. I didn't watch it either.
Yay.
I don't think I've ever gotten it with books. I've gotten it with like anime before because like I won't lie, I watched and thoroughly enjoyed some of the most degenerate trash anime ever made. But like, so I've gotten some people that are just like, really? But I don't think with books. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I will have to talk after and see what you mean by degenerate and trash anime.
Keijo is fun. That's all I'll say.
I don't even know this. But
Somebody will know. Somebody in the comments if they
That's all
know they're
I'll
a real
say.
one.
Number 9 is, would you ever be friends with a snob? And I definitely, yeah.
I say yes. I
Definitely
mean,
would.
as long as they're
But
like
it depends on the amount, because if you're like snob in every area of your life, then
yeah,
I'm
like
well.
I couldn't agree more. Like if you were just insufferable to be around, then I'm just like, it's not that I dislike you as a person. I'm just not going to hang out with you. You know what I mean? Like I won't go out of my way. But like, I don't know. I feel like I can get along with pretty much anybody. We don't have to have the same views on things, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm with Jake. I get along with a lot of people who on a lot of things I don't agree with. So I think I could get along with.
It's just not that serious, you know?
It's not.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not.
Oh, you don't like this book? Oh no.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Oh no, we can't be friends.
Yeah.
Blocked.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think we're all pretty
Immediately.
much
Yeah, I think
on
we're
the
on the same
same
wavelength there.
same page as that one, because that one's kind of not a difficult. Okay, number 10. Are people who don't read less sophisticated than those who do? Pause.
Yes.
Because I looked up
Just kidding. Just kidding.
definition for sophisticated.
Just kidding.
Definition: having, revealing, or proceeding from a great deal of worldly experience and knowledge of fashion and culture.
Fashion.
No, I am not sophisticated.
Have you read Wheel of Time? Because then you'll know a lot about fashion.
That is very true.
I've heard
haven't.
about that. Yeah,
And the circus, and
See, now here's the thing.
Literally
Like,
everything.
I like for the question, are people who don't read less sophisticated? Well, I don't consider myself sophisticated at all. Like,
It's a good point.
man, I
and
just
do
wear orange
read.
shirts. I mean, like, how can I be
Right.
sophisticated?
Well, you know a
Back
lot
in this-
about
I mean,
orange
like,
shirts.
Not only do I just wear orange, like I only wear this orange shirt. Like you've never seen me in another one.
Oh, yeah, it's so true. One of these days. One
Hopefully
of
you
these
wash it.
days. Nope.
The last video you ever
He
do for your
doesn't.
channel, please wear a different shirt. That'd be just so crazy.
Oh, that
Oh
would
my
be.
God.
Do I
Tom,
just break
what's
it?
a sad?
break
Just a
everybody?
sad color,
Yeah.
or whatever. So like Tom
I
sad
think
color, whatever it is.
you have to be
Gray,
like
Tom
buried
Gray.
in orange now too. Like it's
True.
if
Yeah.
if I were to see you in public somehow and you're not wearing orange, I don't think I'd recognize you. I'd be like, who's this?
That's so
This
true.
is camouflage. Maybe that was
Yeah.
the plan all
Right.
along. You know.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
It's like some weird twisted John Cena situation.
Not okay. I like how none of us are answering the question.
I know. Sorry,
I'm
I
trying to
completely
think.
derailed
We're just
us a
like,
little
oh,
bit.
we're all dumb. Like
I'm
we
trying
The
don't
to
answer
know.
is the answer.
think it
The
is
answer is
interesting.
I am not an authority on this subject.
I do think it's interesting if you look at that definition. It talks about what does it say at the end? Like being well versed in like culture and things. Is that what it said at the
Yeah,
end?
fashion or culture.
Or culture.
Oh wait, no.
I don't know.
Actually, I think it says and. I can't read, so
It has to be both.
my bad.
Yeah, I mean,
Fashion and culture.
I do think that like reading definitely gives you the ability to like experience so much more than you'll ever be able to if you don't. That you could maybe make the argument, but like I'm only doing that because I want to be devil's advocate a little bit and just for the fun of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
let me be a little snobby.
I think.
Why not?
Yeah, I think
So
it.
Tom
Gives
says yes.
you. It
Yeah.
gives you the ability to become sophisticated if you read a lot, I guess. But I would say gaining knowledge a lot of the times would come from reading and not necessarily just books, but reading articles. You could read interviews, or maybe you could listen to them or listen to documentaries or things like that. But a lot of history is written down. Fashion and culture, I would lean more into the culture because whatever, but how would you find out about that stuff if it wasn't written down? So
Got to go outside and touch grass.
Yeah, you travel and
Gotta.
stuff.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that is like
yeah,
the real
exactly.
combination of answers.
The
right? Like,
human
yeah.
the human conversation, meeting people from all over, you become more
Mhm.
sophisticated than that, like meeting different perspectives. But I think the
Yeah.
written word and being able to write down these things helps people learn more and make it more accessible, but not that like you have
Now,
to
what
read
did we
to be
say earlier?
sophisticated.
10 toes down. If you don't read, you can't be
It's
sophisticated.
dying on the hill.
Wow.
I kind of,
It's-
you
oh,
know what?
man, I don't
I'm
know.
kind of on board for this one with
I
Tom. I think you put me in a room with a bunch of sophisticated people. I'll just be like, but they've never read. I'd be like,
What, come on.
Losers.
wow.
Loser,
You
you
guys
haven't
are
read
the
Book of the New
least-
Sun?
You don't know about
I
seven
haven't.
braids or
I haven't, so I guess I am the loser here.
I don't know if I'm on board with this, guys. I'm just like,
I'm
they're
not
they're
actually,
definitely they're strongly correlated, right? Like a lot of sophisticated people happen to read, and like
Mhm.
it will help you become more sophisticated, I'm sure. But like, I think you can be sophisticated without reading, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. Like, there's probably, if we accept that it's true that you have to read to be sophisticated, then what about like tribal cultures that don't have books and stuff? Or what about
Mhm.
like, I don't know history.
That's
I'm sure
a
there was a time
that's a
before
deep
books.
historical
Yeah.
like thing that you just hit where like, there's a lot of people who would say they know they are not sophisticated for like those specific reasons. Not that I agree
And
with
I
that.
could be wrong.
But I don't
No,
agree.
no.
Like, because I think I see where you're going with it, where you're just like, you could go out and have those worldly experiences and be well versed in so many different things without ever picking up a book because you got to experience them,
Yeah.
like actually experience them.
Yeah.
Like you can only
I don't-
read about skydiving, but you'll never know what it's like to jump out of a plane until you do it.
True.
Mhm.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I could be wrong. My degree's in lifting weights, so what do I know? But like, it seems like I don't know. One of the things you learn when you go into science is like you never speak in absolutes, right? So I'm just like, it can't be
Yeah.
a requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think like a lot of education, and you would say that maybe people are educated or sophisticated, but it's a difficult line to like get on. But like a lot of education, I mean, like for my degree, I'm reading all the time, you know, so and reading about different cultures. But I think
Yeah.
how would I become more sophisticated, I guess, if I'm branching into a specific thing? Well, I want to study abroad. I would learn because I'm doing a Spanish degree. I want to go to Costa Rica and learn. There's a class specifically about Costa Rican women culture. What better way to learn and become more knowledgeable on that subject than to go talk to them? Like,
100%.
you know, and that you know, if you could be like well traveled and be able to talk to everybody and cultures, I mean, I would love that. I love to talk. I love to talk to people. So, you know, I think that you could be extremely sophisticated just from conversation.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, but that's not
Wow.
fun. So go pick up a book,
That's
everyone.
true.
Or you're not sophisticated.
Yeah. That or monocle and a top hat. That makes you pretty sophisticated.
When I was picturing
I
the
think
room
it
I
makes
was
you
in,
funny.
They all
with
had
all
it.
those, yeah, they all had it. Every
They all
single
had
one.
it, and of course they did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Cartoonishly, everybody.
That's the fashion part of being sophisticated.
Yeah.
I can't believe
I
that's part of
feel
the
like-
definition.
I know that is
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
No,
It's
I
like
didn't
the
know
excellent-
either
Sophisticated
until I
and
looked it up, and I'm like,
those two words to me, complex, sophisticated, layered, depth. I figured there was going to be some more correlation between those words. I didn't
Yeah.
think sophisticated was
fashion.
going to be so specifically related to culture and fashion.
Does a tweed
that's
jacket count
interesting.
as a knowing
Oh,
about
absolutely.
your
Oh my gosh.
fashion?
Philip,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so
it
Philip
does.
Chase he's the
It
most
is.
sophisticated of us all, I think.
He
is.
won sophistication, I think.
He won.
Yeah,
I think
he won it.
so. Yeah, he's just
And he reads.
yeah.
But only wearing one orange shirt, I think you've lost.
I am at
Yeah,
the
but there's
bottom.
layers.
But I
there's
also
shades.
like most of the shirts I own have become Lord of the Rings shirts. Like somehow I've gotten into this hole of buying Lord of the Rings shirts. So
Yeah.
that doesn't make me very
Like it.
sophisticated either.
Well, he has 50 Shades of Orange.
Oh,
Is
That's
it
what we
or is it
call-
one shade of orange?
That's what we call a callback.
I
in
have
the
seen at
biz.
least two. On the channel, I've seen at least two.
Yeah, I've seen at least
Oh.
two. It's a
I
mix.
can
So
take
he's
a
got
look
at least
closer.
two orange
There's a couple.
shirts.
There before I bought this one, there was more. Now there's just
Is that the shirt? That is the Tom Orange shirt.
as far as everyone needs to know, this is
Copyrighted?
the shirt.
Okay.
It wasn't a 4-pack of Hanes t-shirts that I bought. I promise. It's just this one.
Well, that was a very specific, so I'm kind of feeling like
So maybe it
Maybe.
is.
anyway. So if everybody has tallied up their scores, I think I kind of knew going into this that not like most of us were not going to be necessarily snobby.
Right.
I think I might be the most snobbiest of us all, but I think it
marked you.
goes into me being a very literal person and like going and looking at the definitions, but that's a part of the OCD, so I don't know.
Dory, do we tell each other what we mark each other as?
Yes. And which
Do you want-
questions?
All right. I'll just hone up to it. I marked you as yay for 3, and I don't remember what 3 was, and I'm probably
crap.
wrong.
Oh,
And then I
no
marked you
worries.
yay for 7,
Okay.
and that was
7. Okay. 3 is does erotica count as literature?
it. Right. Okay.
And that's fair. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
said no, not really, not our modern definition. And then 7 was have I looked down on reading on someone for reading a fluff book, and then once I analyzed myself, I was like, okay, I don't really look down on them. I just kind of wish that they read what I read to talk to them about it. So
It's weird.
But
I
if
wrote
you-
yay, and then I tallied a bunch next to it.
you're like, these are the points that she's making for nay. That's fair. So that's to
Hey,
be
this is just a
determined.
paper. I didn't.
It's
It's a paper.
So, yeah.
Jake, it has only one, and it's for number 2. And number 2 is the genres that you wouldn't consider reading, and it was the classics that you said that you were talking about that you really think against classics. And then I recommended you a really good one.
That's fair. I'll take that. I won't read it, but I appreciate the
Oh,
recommendation.
You don't have to. You
guy.
don't have to. It's fine. You
guy.
read enough, I'm sure, for your degree in
I
channel.
appreciate it.
That's three
no.
A's for me. Sorry on that one.
Oh no.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I can go. Tom, you're super base, and I gave you the only one I put meh for number 4 because I was halfway between. I don't remember what that one was. Everything else I put no because I know for number 10 you were trolling. So
Yes, just a little bit.
Number 4 was the classic books versus popular bestsellers.
oh yeah, I
Oh,
said
yeah.
meh for that one.
Yeah, that's fair. I
Yeah.
tried to pick a side because why not? But yeah,
10 toes
Chance.
down.
I said I also did a half. I said a little bit for number 4,
Oh, all right.
and then that was it.
4 was a hard one.
4 was a hard one. That was a good. That was a good question though. I liked
So
it.
I'm the biggest jerk here based on these grades.
Absolutely.
Fucked all of these two. Hey, look, it wasn't me though. No, it was the paper.
It's the paper. Yeah, it's the paper.
It's the paper.
Just the paper, yeah. Whatever.
I get points for being a jerk. That's +2. I'm the biggest.
Yeah, +2 snob. No, I kind of knew I would probably be the biggest snob, but biggest snob with like 1.5 to 2 is like it's whatever. I mean,
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, more.
I should have just come in and been a heel, been a snob for every single one. But
I was actually
Yeah.
considering. I was like,
Yeah.
do I want to just
just be
throw a
the one-
grenade and troll everything?
You're all like somebody's gonna do it.
I feel like I chose y'all because I was like, oh, like we're all kind of on the same wavelength of like people. Like the vibes are the same.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I was like, well, maybe this is gonna be boring because we're all gonna agree.
It's still a good discussion though.
No, it was.
No,
very
that's
good-
what I
very good
thought too.
discussion, for sure.
I think we brought up a lot of important points. And does anyone have any closing thoughts or anything other than I will say thank you guys again. This was really fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having
Appreciate
us.
it.
Thank you very much. My only closing thought is apparently I need to grow a mustache because I feel left out.
I don't have one.
Okay, that's true. That's true. Okay. Well, I was trying to be funny, but now I feel like a jerk, so that's okay.
Oh, there you
Yes,
go.
you must grow a mustache.
Yeah, now you definitely have to.
Yeah, you got to do it, no matter what it
Right.
looks like.
Shot myself in the foot trying to make a joke. That's okay. Thank you for having us. This is great.
All right.
Yeah,
Bye,
this is really fun.
everyone. And God bless.